Hey, welcome back to Smart Money Mamas Live. I'm your host, Chelsea Brennan, founder of Smart Money Mamas, where we help moms align their money with their values so they can live their best lives. Last week, we had a great time chatting with Lauren Smith Brody, the author of The Fifth Trimester, all about going back to work after maternity leave. But what if you work for yourself or you want to change your career to work online with more flexibility and control of your income? I know I was in that spot before the birth of my youngest. So today I'm excited to be joined by Tasha Booth, the founder of the Launch Guild, to break down starting a successful business as a new mom. Tasha has spent years helping women start, grow, and scale profitable businesses that make the life they crave a reality. She believes that life is about passion, fulfillment, and joy, and we shouldn't wait until we're 65 to experience it. Amen to that. Now, before we get started, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button and click the little bell so you get notified every time we release a new episode. And if you're wondering what kind of business or side hustle to start, be sure to download your free Design Your Passion Project workbook in the description of this video. Are you ready to dig into what we need to know about online business? Let's bring Tasha on. Tasha, it is so good to see you.
Hello. I went to the wrong link.
Oh, no.
I know. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. Can you introduce yourself to everyone watching?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So, as you've already explained, I am the CEO and founder of the Launch Guild. We do full service launch support. I now have a team of 25, which is absolutely insane. Yeah, I am a stepmom to Grace and Meredith. They are now 12 and 14 years old. I have a high schooler like this coming year. It's just crazy.
That's crazy.
It's so crazy. I'm an Air Force wife. My husband's in the Air Force. He has been for 21 years now, 22 years now, and he gets to retire in 2 years. So I'm super excited to be here. I also coach and mentor virtual assistants, online business managers, project managers, and I just do a lot of stuff and I love all of it. So I'm happy to be here.
It's amazing. And God bless you with a 12 and 14-year-old girl. That is just a lot of attitude.
It's a lot. You know what? I said to my husband when we first got married, and even before that, when I was first in the girl's life like 7 years ago, I was like, I know that there's going to come a point, it's probably going to be Meredith because she's the one with the little attitude that she's going to slam the door. And I was like, and I'm just letting you know that the door will come off of the hinges and she won't have a door anymore when that happens. And thankfully that has not happened yet. So doors are all still on their hinges.
Fingers crossed.
I know, fingers crossed.
Well, we have some amazing women here watching who've been introducing themselves in the comments, some that aren't sure what kind of business they want to start, some that have had a business for a couple years. We've got everything from bookkeepers to virtual assistants, hanging out, online business manager as well. And so let's talk about the Launch Guild in your business and how you got started. When did this all start for you?
Yeah, so I started going on 5 years at this point. It was late 2016, and it really happened by accident. I had a full-time job as the director of 2 YMCAs in Tucson, Arizona, where we were stationed at the time. And I actually was one of those people who loved my job. So I don't have the story of like my boss, he was amazing. Like I didn't hate anybody. I loved my coworkers. I didn't love the paycheck of a nonprofit.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no. And there was literally no way other than like being an executive director for the Y that I was ever going to make more money. So it really became up to me to like find a way to pay off credit card debt, student loans, and to be able to travel and do things as a family, which we really enjoy doing. And so I started as a VA, just doing it part-time, evenings, weekends, that kind of thing. And it quickly grew to what it is now. And I mean, not to, it didn't go from there to what it is now overnight, but we grew over time to the point of where we're going to be $1 million business this year. And that's pretty, thank you.
That is so exciting.
I know.
Where did my kids do with my little, here we go, ready?
I love it.
They always come in here and steal it because they like to press the button.
It's so much fun. I would steal it too.
Well, that's amazing. But seven figures.
Yeah, 7 figures. Yeah. So I think it was like 5 months in. So right after I got married, my husband deployed for 4 months, and which was totally fun. And so I remember that like I FaceTimed him one day and I was like, so I think I want to quit my job and just do this full time. And he was like, as long as you keep paying your part of the bills, like go for it. He's been really supportive all the time, which has been really helpful to it. But I decided to go in full time, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Okay, so you started as a virtual assistant. What type of work did you do as a virtual assistant? Because I know that can mean a wide range of things.
Yeah, so I started offering everything in the kitchen sink and quickly realized that was not going to work long term, as many VAs realized pretty early on. And then I really enjoyed tech. So I was like kind of a go-to tech VA. I was really lucky and fortunate to get on some larger teams pretty quickly. And I saw that like tech and just supporting people in their launches was what I loved doing, which is why I kind of started building my agency and my team around launch support. And we continued doing VA and ongoing OBM work for a while. And then middle of last year, almost a year ago to the day, we were just like, you know what do we actually really, really enjoy doing? And what are we like really amazing at? Launches. Like, let's just get rid of everything else. So that's what we did.
And I think that happens a lot with any kind of service-based business, right? Where you have to pare down. You got to figure out what you're good at before you can pick your specialty. But I know that some people listening, the idea of a VA is still relatively new. I think we all kind of hear like, why don't you be a VA? But we don't know what that means. And so can you talk to us about you did tech, but what are some other things that VAs often do?
Yeah. So when I coach because I do coach a lot of new VAs, like I always suggest like start with what you know. And I think a lot of VAs think that they have to have like years of executive assistant, like support kind of knowledge under their belts. And that's not the case. Like we almost all of us have like email addresses, right? We're almost all on social media. Like those are skills that not everybody has and not everybody can do well. So I give the example of like, if you always hit inbox 0 and you are great at organizing inboxes, that's a skill that people will pay you for. But you can start with social media support and just being like doing scheduling for people of their social media. You can start with like inbox management or customer service support. All of those are skills that you can take from what you're probably already doing in the online space, even if you've never been paid for it before, and use it to make more income.
Awesome. And so you also you separate out two different things, which is online business managers and project managers. Can you give us a little bit in detail about what each of those things are?
Yeah. So online business managers are kind of I don't want to say a step up. It's just a different skill set kind of. Yeah. When you think in terms of a regular, like a brick and mortar business, usually there's some sort of business manager that is there to support in kind of a strategic role, that is there to also support team members. So they're doing less implementation of tasks and more implementation of processes, overall management and support kind of thing. So that's what an OBM or like an online business manager is in the online space. And then a project manager is somebody who sometimes comes in short term. We also call these people like launch managers for what we do. And they come in for a specific project. So that could be a launch of a new service or product for a client, but it could also be a launch of a website. There are a lot of people who work in with website designers and are project managers for those things too. So it's just about skill set and what you enjoy doing. And I've seen a lot of people who start off as general VAs and then they find that their skill set is better suited for being an OBM or being a project manager or a launch manager.
Absolutely. So a lot of moms are interested in having their own business for flexibility that it gives them, but they get stuck on the type of business to start. So what should they consider when they're deciding how to get started?
Yeah, I would start with, what do you enjoy doing? So I'm not my mom, every time I pick up a new hobby, she's always like, oh, you could turn that into a business. Oh, right? So we're not talking about that because I would have 17 businesses if I listened to my mom all the time. But what I am talking about is looking at, what do you enjoy doing? And what are some things that like you're already good at? Think about in terms of I give this example a lot, like, are you the person that everybody's like, oh, she'll be the party planner to put the party together, right? Because you're great at keeping lists and knowing what vendors need to be, or are you the person who like plans other specific things for your family and friends and that sort of thing? Look at what you're already being asked to do and what people are already always like, oh, Chelsea's the go-to for this thing. Yes. And lean into that. Get curious about like, what could you do with that type of skill set. And then you get to just kind of play in the sandbox and say, make a list of like, okay, what could, this turn into? What could this be? And then we kind of just like move in one direction at a time and try things until we figure out which one works for us.
That test and scale is such an important thing, right? To try something and then see if it works and either take it to the next level or pivot and do something else.
Yeah.
I think we get stuck sometimes thinking we have to have the final answer of what our business is going to look like. And just like you said, the Launch Guild didn't look like this when you started it. And Smart Money Mamas didn't look like this when I started it, right? It's an evolution.
Yeah, totally. It's definitely an evolution. Yeah.
Awesome. And so one of the things that we hear a lot is we get moms who are pregnant or they're on maternity leave with their first kid and they realize they don't want to go back to their traditional 9 to 5. And so now they have this ticking timer, right? Like either until their baby is born, until the maternity leave ends. And so they want to start a business, like, so let's say 6 months. They want to start a business in the next 6 months to at least be earning something to replace some of their income. What is the first thing they should do?
Yeah. So first thing is pick a lane, so kind of pick what that first thing is going to be. And the second thing is get grassroots about it. So talk to people and tell them about your business. I know of so many people who have waited so long to even announce that they have a business because we're afraid of the judgment. We're afraid of like, oh, well, you tried this little business thing before and it didn't work, right? Yeah. Get rid of the naysayers and those people who are going to downplay what you're trying to do and lean into your friends and your family who are going to be really excited about what you're going to do, right? And what you're trying to do. So start there and just start really talking to people. Maybe the person that you talk to isn't your ideal client, but maybe they know your ideal client. I know everybody has someone out there who is either starting a business or who has a business and needs support in some capacity or another. So I think you always have opportunity, but a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So we really need to open our mouths and just like talk about our businesses.
So I know for me, my biggest cheerleaders at the beginning were my mom, my husband, my sister-in-law, but also I was in a mom's group of other women who were new moms. And so Smart Money Mamas, that was a perfect place for them. Who were your biggest cheerleaders as you started this business?
Yeah, definitely my husband. So my husband's always been my biggest cheerleader and my mom too. At first she was like, what are you doing? Like, what is this thing? You can't make real money on the internet. And now I've proven her wrong. Yeah, but the other thing is like getting into community. So I love that you mentioned like your mom's group. That was a community for you that you could talk to them about like what you were doing and, how you were going about it. I believe fully in community. I've always been in either some peer-led community, like a Facebook group, or some paid coaching community from month 3 on in my business. And I really think that, especially if it's something like online or something that maybe you don't see modeled in like your own family or your current friend group, that you need to see what success can look like. And so it's so important to get into community.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Okay. So we're starting to get the word out. And so the next question that comes up all the time is pricing, right? Like, how do I decide how much to charge for my services? So where do we start with that?
Yeah. So I believe that pricing is first from a place of your gut, right? Because if you just kind of look at, especially in the virtual assistant space, but any online space, especially there are people charging $3. There are people charging $300 for roughly the same thing. And there's everything in between, right? So really think in terms of what does your gut say? Like when you look at that price, yeah, it could be a little scary to decide what your pricing is or to say kind of those larger numbers. But at the same time, if you check in with your gut and what you know that you're going to need in order to make this kind of profitable, just start there. So the other thing is that just like our business is not our final iteration, what we start with, also, when we're starting, our pricing is not our final iteration. So I like to go on a pricing model of you sell it to 3 people. Once you get 3 yeses, it's time to increase your price. That could be $5 an hour. Yeah. So that could be, a $5 an hour increase on a price or $3 an hour increase on the price. You sell it to 3 more, you raise it a little bit more until it's at your price that you're just like, oh, this feels really good, really in line with what I want.
Okay. And so that's another question, hourly versus project-based pricing, right? Should we have flat fees or should we think about hourly, especially as we're getting started?
Yeah, I always suggest starting with hourly. And the reason for that is often if you go straight to project base, you're not going to be able to calculate the number of hours that thing is going to take you. So we often end up undercutting ourselves in terms of our pricing if we go straight to project based. That's what we want to get to eventually, having some sort of retainer or project based model. But we really want to be able to look at kind of the data and the averages in terms of how much things have cost us, or in terms of time, in terms of resources and everything, and then be able to price that as a package from there.
We definitely saw that happen a lot, I think, with Pinterest VAs of charging by
Yes.
image or by process. And then when you get them to do the math out, they were making like $5 an hour, right? And it was
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe we go back to hourly for a little
Yeah.
bit or charge more. Like, but we
Yeah.
do think like the package seems expensive. And so we kind of talk ourselves out of charging more, and then you end up at a lower hourly rate, which isn't
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. And we also I love and I hate that word expensive, because expensive is
Oh, yeah.
relative. You know what I mean? It's so relative. And I have finally gotten to the place where I'm like, I can't judge that person's pocketbook, like
Yeah.
I used to say $500 to people and it would scare the crap out of me. And now if I said 500, I would be like, you're getting like an hour of my time. Like,
It's just barely worth it for me. Okay.
Barely. Exactly. So yeah, so think in terms of expensive is going to change for you and also for your ideal client as you grow.
Absolutely. Especially because you get better at things, right? And so
Yeah.
they're paying for the expertise and that
Yeah.
time. Okay. So this is another question, which is, what do we need in place? Like, some people get stuck in that I need a website and I need a professional email and I need social media accounts before I can even pitch my first client. Like,
No.
is that necessary? What do we actually need to pitch the first client?
Yeah. So I truly believe in showing up as professionals. And I think that a website and having that professional outside will help in supporting your business as it grows. Is it the first thing that you need? Absolutely not. You can work on your website. First of all, you can work on it in a weekend. My Tasha Booth website was literally built in a weekend. It's from a template on Squarespace. Like, it's not fancy.
Yep.
But second of all, it's something that you can grow into and work as you're getting clients, right? It's not anything that you need to not get clients and wait for. So it's really about having your services. So knowing what you offer, being able to have a way to get paid for that. So PayPal, Square, Stripe, having a contract of some sort so that you and the other person can agree to like the terms of what you're offering, and then having a way to whatever your offer is, right? So that used to be, and I used to have the janketiest system. Like, I did not when I started off as a VA, I literally didn't know that like the online, like the e-sign contracts existed. So I sent like my first 10 clients. This is so embarrassing. I sent it via a PDF, had them like literally physically sign it and like take a screenshot of it and send it back to me.
But that works,
It
right?
worked.
Like,
It totally worked. Yeah. But yeah, because I didn't know any better. And it's totally okay. Like, start with where you're at and what you have. And when you know better, you do better, right? As Maya Angelou said. So once you know, like, just like once I knew, oh, e-contracts are a thing, right? Now I have everybody signed digitally. But until I knew that worked totally well.
All right, we got to dive into contracts, because I feel like this is another place where VAs get stuck, right? Where they go to get paid, they're not getting paid on time, or there's scope creep and they're like, oh no, I didn't create a contract. So what are the basics that should be in any client contract?
Yeah. So really, when we're thinking about contracts, we want to agree to like the timeline, the dollar amount that you're getting paid, what you're getting paid to do, right? So I, of course, am not an attorney, but those are the basic outlines in terms of a contract. I also like to include what's not included in my contract because of what you were just talking about with scope creep. That tends to happen a lot with virtual assistants, and people are like, oh, well, I thought you were going to write all of my email copy for me. No, that's a copywriter. I am not a copywriter. So I like to include like, this includes like general admin, which is defined by what you'll do as general admin. This does not include Facebook ads, copywriting, marketing, whatever you don't want to be a part of that. And what I now teach that I've learned the hard way is having an end date, right? So sometimes you'll have clients that you really, really need support, but feel overwhelmed in even knowing what type of support. And so they sign your contract, they pay you, and then 18 years later, they come back and they're like, okay, I'm ready to start now. And you're like, I don't even offer that anymore. So really thinking in terms of a timeline in terms of when we start and when this contract terminates as well.
And having them sign something is helpful, but there's also just having it written somewhere, right? Email
Yeah.
can be helpful. Just
Mhm.
making sure the terms are somewhere that's not just verbal, because otherwise you
Yeah,
get really stuck in that he said, she said game.
exactly.
But,
Yes.
but scope creep brings up another thing, which is time management. And so
Mhm.
you're a mom and a military wife in addition to running your own business. So
Yeah.
how do you manage your time, especially as you were just starting out?
Yeah. So I think it's really, really important. And this is what I teach all of my moms. And I'll give you an example. I work with this lady, Carrie. She's literally one that has taken like every single one of my programs. She's been a one-on-one. I love her.
You
We'll work
gotta love
together
those
for
super
forever.
fans. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. She's a super fan. Yeah. And so we first started working together when her youngest was about 1 or 2 years old. And she was working a full-time job as a teacher and
Oh my
building this
gosh.
business. Right? And she has two girls. And so I would say to her all the time, you cannot look at anybody else's what's happening in their world. You have to honor what's happening in your world at the moment, right?
Mm.
And what I mean by that is, first, I always like to lead with gratitude. Like, I am so grateful for the family that I have, for the opportunity to build this business and everything. And then I lead with grace, right? Even
Mm.
though I'm grateful, I also know that I can only do what I can do. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to open up my calendar and I'm going to look at what my family is doing and what, my friends and I want to do and what work I already have, and plug in those holes in terms of what can I actually do, in my time. So we
Yeah.
really want to do kind of like a time audit in the beginning. And I
Mhm.
want you to also think about things like downtime, things like time with family, going to the gym, eating, sleeping, those things that we sometimes
Basic
forget about.
self-care, mom.
Taking a shower, right? And plan for what you can actually do on an ongoing basis. That could be that you look at your calendar and you look at what your kid's schedule is and soccer practice and everything, and you say, I legit only have 5 hours a week. Awesome. How
Mhm.
can you make the most of those 5 hours to move your business forward,
Yeah.
instead of, oh, I only have 5 hours a week, this will never work? No, 5 hours a week. Eventually, maybe you can hire somebody that can also help you for 5 hours a week. That slowly builds the momentum into what you want your business to eventually be.
Okay, so let's actually say we got 5 hours a week or
Yeah.
5 to 10 hours a week. What can we do to make that at least bring some money bringing in? Like, what's the most important things to be focused on?
Yeah. So the most important thing to be focused on is your visibility, especially in the beginning, but always, so that we never have kind of that lull in our business when we haven't been
Yeah.
talking about your business. So what I don't want people to do is think that they have to be set up on every single social media platform and present everywhere all day, every day, right? That
Yes.
is burnout quickly. You want to pick the place that you're already hanging out. So if you're starting a new business, you probably don't really know like where your clients are hanging out. Your clients
Mhm.
are everywhere. If you want to be on Clubhouse, there's people on Clubhouse. If you want to be on LinkedIn, there's clients that you can find on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want to be. But you're just going to pick one place to consistently be present. And what I
Mhm.
mean by consistently is like 10, 15 minutes a day, if
Yeah.
that, just to get some content out, make sure that people know who you are, what you do, and who you support. That's the important thing.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're having some visibility. We're finding those clients, and obviously we're doing our client work as much as possible in that 5
Yes.
to 10 hours. And I got to say, there's probably a part here too about not over promising with
Mhm.
those hours, because I think that that's where we can start to weaken our boundaries. And so when we're new and we might not know how long a project's going to take, how do we make sure that we are able to fulfill everything we tell a new client?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question. So it's about communication, right? So
Mm.
still to this day, if we're doing hourly something, I say we estimate that this is going to take 4 hours. When we get to 3 hours, we'll let you know if our estimate needs to
Mm.
be extended or whatever. That way you're setting your clients up for the expectation of it could be more than 4 hours. I've seen things and gone into things where I'm like, oh, this will be easy. 17 hours later.
Exactly.
I'm still sitting there, right? And so just having the communication up front and setting expectations on both sides up front is going to be helpful. I firmly believe that 9 times out of 10, actually 9.9 times out of 10, our clients want to be great clients. They want to be great people, but
Mhm.
sometimes we under communicate because like things don't go the way that we thought they would, and then we get embarrassed, and instead of just like owning up to it and admitting it, we ghost them or we don't talk about it or whatever. And so
Mm.
communication is totally key for that.
Absolutely. And then we had mentioned obviously self-care, making time for the
Wow.
gym, making sure that's in our schedule. I've seen in my own life and in people that work with us, it's easy to let those things go, right? Especially
Mhm.
when we can see that we could, maybe we could grow faster if I just had this extra hour a day or whatever it is. How do we preserve taking care of ourselves and the life that we want as we grow our business? How do we align those goals?
Yeah, I think it goes back to it's two things. So, number one, really defining what our why is, why we're starting this business in the first place
Mm,
from the very beginning. I know that being able to say yes to things was my why from the beginning, right? Because when I had a whole bunch of student loan debt and everything, I couldn't say yes to going on fun vacations. Like we literally just got back from a 2-week vacation with our girls
amazing.
yesterday, right? And we got to like rent a beach house and everything. Like I didn't have the money to do that,
Yes.
beforehand. So when I look at my business is informed or serves the purpose of my life's purpose. And my life's purpose is being able to spend more time with my husband and my daughters and my dogs, and
Yeah.
enjoy things. So that's number one. And number two, realizing that when we say yes to things, we're also saying no to things. Every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else.
Mm,
So I got into this for a while where I was starting to work really early hours and not prioritizing working out, right? And
mm,
so what was I saying no to? I was saying no to like my mental health, my physical
yes.
health, right? And that over time makes me less of a successful CEO. That's not a way that like I can live and be sustainably. And that doesn't make me a great mom or a great wife or any of those things as well. So I think really thinking in terms of like, what am I saying no to? Like I'll even, say that when we have the girls, like I'm one that like when I am working on something, I like to work on it from start to finish. And when I became a stepmom, I had to reframe that, and think in terms of like what are their needs and like what am I saying no to, in terms of time with them and getting to see them grow and like experience new opportunities with them when I just
Absolutely.
like put on my work, kind of like goggles and just go for it. So yeah.
So much changes about how we get to work when we become a mom, in any way we
Yes.
become a mom, right? And
Yeah.
so like I was someone who's like very regimented. I like to like have this whole structure, and things had to shift because sometimes like my morning routine, the boys wake up at 5, it's
Yep.
not happening. Like it's just not gonna happen. And so
Yeah.
things have to shift so much. And I think that being flexible and figuring out what will continue to work for you
Yeah.
through these seasons is important. Mamas, in just a moment, we're going to open up for questions specifically for Tasha. So start dropping them in the comments. But Tasha, I wanted to ask you one more question, which is, can you give some tips on thinking about running a service-based business like a VA or business manager business versus starting your own platform and selling online courses or doing affiliate income or something like that? How do we decide which of those makes sense for us?
Yeah. So I think it can be six of one, half dozen of another in terms of, I know that sometimes people are like, well, if I, put a product out there, like it, if I build it, they will come. The reality is that's not how that works. It's still a lot of time with marketing, with messaging, with gaining an audience and a community, right?
Yeah.
And so you can either spend your time on that, which is totally fine, or you can spend your time gaining notoriety in terms of the clients that you serve and support and getting referrals and everything. So it's
Yeah.
really about like how you enjoy showing up. I know that for me and for the women that I coach, most of us are people pleasers. We're people who really enjoy supporting and serving others. And that's why we decided on starting and leading with a service-based business. If that's not you, that's 1,000% okay. And that may be where you want to go more in terms of the digital products and like courses and
Mhm.
coaching and stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that's actually one of the first questions we have in the comments here is from Kiera, who says, how do we choose the right online coaching program to support us?
Yeah. So I always took it from a place of what do I need in this moment? And like 3 to 12 months from now. So, like the
Mm,
first coaching program that I was in, I was way undercharging. Like, I was super undercharging. And I was like, I need a coaching program that's going to help me mindset wise and also just like actual wise in terms of figuring out what to charge,
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I got into a 3-month coaching program specifically around that. And then when I decided to hire my first team member, I was like, I need a coaching program to figure out, how, teams and team structure and everything. So looking at where you're at now and what that coach can provide you right now, and know that that may not be your coach for the end of forever, that different coaches will give you different support in different ways.
Awesome. I love that.
Mhm.
Okay. Deanna wants to know, what's a good estimate to set aside for taxes when you're getting started?
Ooh, okay. So number one, talk to your accountant.
Oh yeah.
That's just, but at the same time, I started off with I think 25% was what I started off with.
Mhm.
We loosely at the Launch Guild follow the project. What is it?
Profit first.
Profit first. I was like project first. That's not right. Profit first. Yeah, we loosely follow profit first. But as we've grown a team, we have like higher expenses, and so now we only save about 15% for taxes, and that's more than enough for our taxes because of our expenses. But I would start with 25% just to be sure.
Yeah, when you have
Yeah,
minimal expenses, I think 25% is a good place to
exactly.
start because you
Yeah.
are going to be paying taxes on your profit, guys, not on your revenue, which is
Yeah,
one of the
exactly.
benefits of being a business owner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we have a really personal question here that got submitted on Instagram ahead of time from
Mhm.
Cleopatra. And she says, I'm a new mom raising a 15-month-old without the help of her dad. I lost my job last year as a result of the pandemic, have been wanting to start my own business since then, but most days I feel like I'm hitting my head against a wall. Right now, I know exactly how old Mother Hubbard felt looking at those empty cupboards. Oh,
Mm.
so this is no longer a want or desire, but a need. I feel it in my soul that this is the season for a fresh start, but I honestly don't know where to start. How do you keep motivated trying to start a business with no funds and caring for a toddler?
Yeah. So, number one, I so appreciate your question. Thank you so much for asking it. And I know that there are so many women in this situation,
Mhm.
specifically because we're coming off the pandemic, where so many women, primarily women, were the ones who had to come home and stay home and leave their jobs, right? For
Yeah.
one reason or another. So, I totally sympathize and empathize with that. My first thing is that there is no shame in finding all and any of the resources that your community can provide for you. So whether that's WIC or something like that, I want you to go out and find what resources you can, at least for the short term, because what I don't want you to do is build a business from a place of scarcity. Because when we
Mm,
do that, we end up saying yes to people and clients and things that we should have said no to. And that's a worse place to be in terms of wanting to burn your business down because you hate it, right? I
yeah.
truly believe that we should build businesses that we love, right? And so for that reason, I want you to find as much support as you can. The other thing, and I read your question earlier on Facebook or Instagram earlier today, the other thing that I was thinking about is going back to that need for community. You cannot
Mm,
do this on your own, and I don't want you to
yeah.
try doing this on your own. So dig into community, whether it's a faith-based organization that you go to, a church, a synagogue, whatever it is. Dig into that community. Dig into a mom's community of some sort. Find another single mom or single parent that you can kind of team up with, and
Mm,
maybe 4 hours once a week they take the kids, and 4 hours once a week you flip flop and you take the kids, right?
yeah.
Something like that. So be creative, think outside of the box, and be okay with maybe even having a part-time job for sustainability for a while your business is building. Because once again, we want to go back to making sure that you feel comfortable in like your four walls, those sorts of things, and then be
Mhm.
able to build a business of your dreams rather than a business out of scarcity.
Absolutely. That's a great place
Mhm.
to start. And I do think, especially new business owners do that a lot, right? Where we take on clients that we don't ideally want to work with, and then we
Yeah.
feel stuck because we can't, and we don't have the time to build the business that we want because we're stuck with these clients that we don't want, right?
Exactly.
That's such
Exactly.
a bind. It's such a bind.
Yes.
Okay. So next question I've got for you is about being willing to accept money, right? So this is a mindset problem that we see a
Mhm.
lot in our community of like, who am I to ask people to pay me for my skills, right? And so
Yeah.
when you've never done any kind of sales before, owned your own business, how do you put yourself out there and charge a reasonable price for your services?
Yeah, so I think it's a matter of looking around and knowing that like everything that we do in the world really costs money, and we have no problem like paying our grocer, right? Or our babysitter, or like our whatever whoever else, is providing services and things for us. And so knowing
Mhm.
that like we too need money in order to be able to pay all those other people is totally okay. I think also looking at not just the skill set that we have, and I see a lot of women like quote it as, oh, this is easy, so I can't charge for it, right? Well, it's easy
Mm.
for you, which is why people want to pay you money for the service. So, for example, I have this client that I had for about, I guess she coached with me for a year, and she is phenomenal with calendars and calendar management, and she's amazing at it. and she has a master's degree in like operational management, right? And
Yeah.
when she first came to me, she was charging I think it was like $100 a month for calendar management. And I was
Yeah.
like, you have a master's degree, you've spent all this time learning this skill, which is why it's easy for you. You need to charge accordingly, you know? And so
Mhm.
really doing it, I like to say like doing it scared, right? And really practicing. It can be about practicing saying those bigger numbers. I know that the first time I quoted somebody $1,000, first of all, I did it completely wrong. And I said, that'll be $1,000. I'm so sorry if that's too much. Right?
Oh no!
I know, I totally did that. And then what I did was like, I was like, that's never going to happen again. So I literally went in the mirror and I kept saying, that'll be $1,000 until it was like, oh, the sky is blue, you know, like this
Yep.
table is green. I just had to get used to saying it. And I think we just have to get used to it.
And I do think we've built this narrative as a society around hard work and value that if something
Yes.
feels easy for us, then it's not worth money. Instead of what you're
Mhm.
saying, which is that's a skill that you have developed and put so much time into, like
Yeah,
charge for your superpowers. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Okay. So, what if you're a person who has kind of those basic skills, right? You're pretty good at inbox management or calendar, which some people would call the lower level type of VA work,
Yeah,
which is I hate phrasing it that way,
yeah.
but that way. If you want to start leveling up into higher level things like launches, like business management, like tech,
Mhm.
where do you start learning those skills?
Yeah, so I think that a great place to actually first start is with your current clients, right? If your
Mm,
current clients are already doing some of these things, like talk to them. They may have opportunities for you to do more. I know that I got my first bigger retainer client basically having that conversation and saying like, okay, here's where we kind of started and here's the things that you're asking me to do. I'm super excited about them and I'd love to, and this is how much it's going to be. And I'd love to kind of also, you know, she understood that I was kind of newer to it. But then
mm,
also there's programs like my program for launch managers is one of the examples. Like I have a certification now for those who already have experience as VAs, OBMs, and project managers and are like, you know what, I'm doing a lot of launches and I want to get better at it. So let me become a launch manager. So look around at the other opportunities to just kind of like learn and to dig into experiencing those things that you want to try as well.
yeah, that's fantastic. So my podcast manager, Deanna, did our podcast stuff for a while, and then she actually came to me and was like, do you have any interest in doing more with YouTube? Like, I'd really like to learn about YouTube. And
Mhm.
so now she's also our YouTube manager, and we've kind of worked together to get our channel launched and things like that. And so really approaching the people you're already working with who already trust you to kind of take into the next step, especially if
Yeah.
it's related to what you're already doing, is just fantastic. I love that advice.
Yeah.
And so, Tasha, you chose to go the agency route with your business ultimately, right? You have 25 people working for you now. How
Yeah.
did you make that decision? And if you do want to start an agency, how do you get that going?
Yeah. So I love having an agency. And you also have to know that if you don't enjoy people, you're probably not going to enjoy agency. Because people corralment and just like, you know,
Oh,
people
yeah.
planning is what I do as an agency owner at this point.
Mhm.
I really chose agency because I was kind of at that pivot point, that tipping point in terms of I cannot grow anymore, right? There are
Mhm.
only a certain number of hours in a day and a week. And I didn't want to work any more than I was already working. So it became a matter of, okay, I could charge more, but then I'm still going to get to the point of where I'm capped out for time because time is one of
Mhm.
those resources that's not a renewable thing, right? So being able to support our clients in bigger and better ways in terms of having a team of experts in each one of the disciplines like Facebook ads and project
Mhm.
management and all things, and being able to say, oh, if we want to take on more clients, we just hire more people instead of it being about me and it always being relying on if I have the time or if I don't have the time.
So how do you find good people to make sure you're
Yeah.
starting your agency in a way that your clients are getting the same level of service?
Yeah, it's a matter of taking your time and really figuring out what's really, really important to you. So
Mhm.
we like to look at in terms of what are the core skills in terms of what they need, but also what are the core values that we need for them to have, and in how they show up with our clients and for our clients, right? So
Mhm.
we've really worked on our company core values. We've worked on you know, who this role is for and who it's not for, and that who it's for and who it's not for has been on, you know, based off of experiences both positive and negative with team members. But it's really also just about taking your time and getting to know that person, not just as a skill set but also as a person, to make sure that they're a right fit totally for our team.
Could you give me an example of some of those core values and some of those do wants and don't wants for your specific business?
Yeah. So core values is about communication is one of our core values, and doing what we're say we're going to do is our core value. Not micromanaging is a core value, although I think we put it in a different way. But like we're like, I'm always like, I don't have time to micromanage anybody. So I need you to be a self-starter and kind of want to do the work because you want to do the work. And
Yeah.
also somebody who truly believes in rest and relaxation. We turn all of our inboxes off every single weekend because one of our core values is rest and relaxation, which is also why we now close our company for 2 weeks in the middle of the year and 2 weeks at the end of the year. Like everybody was off. Everybody was off. And all full-time people still got paid for, for being there, even though they were on vacation. And I think that just looking at, and also like, being very like anti-racism is one of our huge core values as well. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of looking at what is important to you, what is important to your company and your team as a whole, and moving from that space.
I love it. That's awesome. What's something that surprised you about running an agency?
Oh, goodness. I will say how expensive it can be. Now, I don't want to scare people in that. Like, we run a very profitable agency at this point. But when I first started, I think I hired my first, second, and third team member when I was still charging $25 an hour and I was paying them $5 or $20 an hour. And so that left me $5. And I was like, the math does not math. Like, I was like, I am doing way too much work to only be making $5 an hour myself, right? So realizing that I will, as an agency, the Launch Guild will never be the least expensive option for anybody ever again. And that's okay. Like our messaging is not around like, we're going to be the least expensive. It's we're going to do an amazing job for you and people will still pay it. And that's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, Tasha, what advice do you have for moms who have been watching this and they've gotten lots of great advice, but they want to make sure they go out and get started, take some action?
Yeah. So that would be my number one advice. Think about it for a while, but then get started and take action, right? Too many times we spin around and spiral in the making it perfect, and really focus on the done is better than perfect. The second thing is what I said before, give yourself grace in terms of where you are now versus where you want your business to be, because your infant won't be an infant for forever. So enjoy that time with them as an infant. Know that you're not going to have as much time or that you're not going to have the same amount of time now in your business as when they become, school age, or as when they go to middle and element and whatever that other thing is after elementary.
High school.
High school. I was like, what are words? So yeah, just know that this is a season that you're in, and it's an amazing and fun season, but it's also a tiring season. So give yourself grace.
Absolutely. Tasha, where can people follow up with you, see your work, and get your support if they want to hire you?
Yes. So I have two websites because I have two sides to my business. TheLaunchGuild.com is our agency, and then TashaBooth.com is my coaching and courses.
Fantastic. Tasha, thank you so much for joining us. This was fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Mamas, I hope you learned so much from Tasha today. I love the story of her business getting started with a wide range of things, narrowing down, building her agency, because every business is its own growth and its own evolution. And just getting started now with your basic skills, the things you're great at, and figuring it out along the way is okay. So, don't focus on perfection. Just get started. You can do this. And like Tasha said, I'm so glad she added this in. This is a season. If your kids are young and you only have 5 hours a week, that's okay. You are laying the foundation for maybe when you have more time or you can hire more people. Just get started. You're all amazing. And I'll see you next week.